Welcome to the One Another podcast, where we explore the beauty of difference and the necessity of connection. I'm Sarah, your host, and this is episode 3. Here we are, friends. Here we are. I'm so glad that you guys agreed to join me again, and we're trying this out on Zoom today instead of in my studio in person with 3 different microphones. So, how are you guys feeling today? How are you feeling about this project and joining me on this adventure?
Excited, nervous, happy, all of the above.
I
It's been
know.
good. It's been good, even though, we've had a few conversations, the three of us, around listening to ourselves again before the podcast is actually released, and just the laughter and the criticisms we have for ourselves, and just being able to hear our conversations back to us has been quite humbling.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
It's the reality of showing up and being vulnerable. And I'm just so grateful to you both for being brave enough to do it because it's scary. It's just, that's the truth of it. But it's also exciting. And it feels so good to be talking about these topics that feel relevant and important. So, yeah, we are on the 3rd episode, and today we're going to focus on the word other. Last week we discussed oneness and what does that mean to be a part of the whole of humanity, or the whole of just being alive on this earth, or being a part of the cosmos, being connected to God, to the divine. Today we're talking about other. So we're talking about the distinction and our uniqueness, and why that's important, not just the other piece of the oneness. So there's a quote by Anais Nin that says, "We see the world not as it is, but as we are." So that's sort of the theme of today's topic, is how does that work, knowing that there is no objective view. We're always seeing the world through the lens of our own design, our own distinct way of experiencing it. So I thought I would start and just share a little story from my life. So this idea of studying patterns and unique differentiation, I guess you would call it the science of differentiation, for me started, I went to a class with my husband. We were newly married. We went to this class at our church called Discover Your Shape, SHAPE, and that stood for spiritual gifts, your heart, your abilities, your personality, and your experience. So each piece gave a different little lens on your whole unique self. And the idea at this church was that once you discovered your shape, then you would know how you could serve on, in the church and be useful in the world. Well, for me, I loved it. I loved the class. I mean, I still love all of that. You can see why it would light me up. But one moment that was particularly impactful was when we were on the P, which was personality. We were made to take this little simple personality test. And it was probably one of the most simple ones, which is everybody gets typed in 4 categories. So you're either, and you don't have just one, but you could have a couple different ones. So there was lion, otter, beaver, and golden retriever. Have you guys ever done that test? Or did you ever do it in the
I
past?
never did.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So for me, yeah, it was just fun. Not only did I enjoy it while I was there, but I brought home all my notes, and then I asked all my family members and friends to take the little test. And it was like, oh, you're a beaver. Oh my gosh, look, you're a this. Doesn't that make so much sense? Like, I loved it. I just thought, this is awesome. I got insight that I never had before. So part of that might have been because my focus as a young woman was so directed toward ministry and serving God and being, I just wanted so badly to be the best Christian young person that I could. And I spent 0 time really reflecting on myself because that just wasn't encouraged necessarily in my world. For me, once again, having my scripture spectacles, which is what I call it in my book, like I saw everything through my scripture spectacles. And so when I saw self, it was like, don't be selfish. Let's be selfless. Let's follow the example of Jesus. He became, humble. So it's all about humility, and too much self-focus just didn't seem safe for me. So in this church meeting, however, I was given this rare opportunity to answer questions about myself. And I realized that my number one result was lion, which is the leader, decisive, bold, action oriented. The strengths were leadership, courage, and vision. The weaknesses were that I could be impatient or controlling. Like, yep, that's me. And then the otter was my second, highest score, which was the communicator, the enthusiast. This is the people that are, fun loving, people oriented. They don't mind if they're a little late to a meeting, just they're, relaxed. The strengths are, being encouraging, creative, enthusiastic. The weakness, disorganized, distractible. Yep. So I recognize that so much in me. My husband, he rated highest as the golden retriever, which is the supporter, the relational focused one. They're very loyal, empathetic, peace-seeking. The strengths are compassion and care. The weaknesses are conflict avoidant, people-pleasing. That was my husband. And then he was the otter, like me, in his second one. Unfortunately, neither of us had any beaver, which explains a lot about a lot of things in our life. Details, finances, organization. Okay. So super, super important for me to see. And in that moment, I remember sitting around this round table. I remember everything about that moment, because I felt we had to share our results, and then everyone around the table gave feedback about like, yeah, I can see that, or no, really, we all had discussion time, and it was so powerful for me to have that experience of being seen, particularly as a lion otter. Like, yeah, we see you're here to be a leader. You're here to have that courage and that boldness. That was like, really? I'm allowed to be that? I'm allowed to be bold. I'm allowed to be strong. I had spent so much time trying to fit into the roles that I thought were expected of me. Of course, once again, I had my scripture spectacles on. So I studied everything I could in the Bible about how to be a godly woman. And I believed, I don't know how I'm going to manage that, to be a woman with a gentle and quiet spirit. It's like, well, if I was a golden retriever, then it would have been a lot easier for me to have a gentle and quiet spirit. Or the roles around marriage and men and women that I was given in my system of in that world was that women, you are intended to submit to your husband. He's the leader of the home. He's the one that's supposed to lead and guide. And I just was like, how's this going to work? How is my lion nature going to submit to my golden retriever husband who is, often, I mean, it was just an interesting thing. I felt both seen and I felt terrified. And that really lasted for a long time. As much as I enjoyed the fun of having my friends and family members take the test, it was like, yeah, but what am I going to do about this? This is who I am. And also I need to be who felt like I was supposed to be in order to please God, in order to have a life of purpose and service that mattered. So that's my little story about why I was first intrigued by studying these things and where it began. What about you two? What are your thoughts, or how did that land for you?
So I remember I went on a YWAM DTS, and we did a lot of those tests there because we had split up into teams going to different places in the world on our missions portion of the DTS, and which is discipleship training.
Yeah, I did one as
Um,
well. Yes.
yeah, with Youth with Mission. So that was I was 19, I think, and we did a lot of those, and it's funny because I would I would do them and then I tell everyone what I got and they would just look at me and be like, "No, that's not who you are."
Oh,
And it frustrated me. I remember one time I was like, "No, I'm a follower. I'm not a leader." And this one guy turns around and he's like, "You are not a follower." But I was always quiet and I introspective and was reading the room more than I was, coming into the room. So I just was like, oh, I must be a follower. He's like, no, you're not a follower. And I was like, oh, okay. So I learned more about myself by taking the test and getting them wrong. But what was fun is later on as an adult, I mean, probably in the last 10 years or so, it was about 10 years ago, we were doing some of them again with our teenage kids, and I finally got them right. I was like, okay, I finally
What do you
know
mean,
who I
like got
am.
them right or got them wrong? Because in those tests, isn't it just,
So you can decide what you want to be instead of what you are.
oh,
So like
oh,
it'll ask you a question like, even like the Myers-Briggs or things like
sure,
that. It'll
totally.
ask you a
Oh, yeah. You're
question
like,
and you
well, I
can be
kind of
like,
want to be the person who's
well, yeah,
patient, but now
right.
I'm
When I
yeah.
enter a room, I talk to everyone. Oh, yep, that's me. No, it's not.
You mean so
So
later you were more honest about the
there
question?
you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Which meant I was not only honest, but like, I mean, I think back, I was 19. I really thought, well,
Um,
no, that's who I am. I mean, and I was raised in the Christian church as well. So that wasn't something pushed at all to get to know who you are and why you are the way you are and what you bring to the table. And so, I mean, I hadn't. I had just decided what I wanted to be. But then as an adult, I took them all again and I was like, oh, no wonder it's all changed. Like I'm okay with who I am now. I've actually spent the time focused on who am I, what do I bring to the table, what am I like in relationships and things like that. So
yeah,
I love it.
that's a big piece right there, is just
Mhm.
being okay with it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting. Like what I hear you saying, Andrea, is just getting that information almost validated for you, like what you knew to be true about yourself. And yet, through all the different ways that we can get distracted or we refuse to see some aspects to ourselves, like that was very helpful for you to see, well, no, actually, I am more this way. I just
Right.
didn't want to see this about myself, or I didn't want to have to take personal responsibility, which really what it boils down to, right?
Absolutely.
Is when you know you cannot not know, and then you're responsible to do something with it,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I never took those kinds of tests early on in my life. So this is all very new to me within the last, I would say, 8 years or so, maybe 10. But I find it interesting too, Sarah, as I hear that story about you feeling seen once you took the test, because these were all attributes that you have felt, but didn't know how to continue to belong in your community
Mhm.
as a woman
Mhm.
who exemplified more of these qualities, as you would say that a lion does, right? So
Mhm.
I'm curious, like when you got this knowledge, like I can feel your excitement, but like what did you do with it?
Well, I mean, that brings up that quote that we mentioned last week by Gabor Mate, where he's talking about the two greatest needs that human beings have are authenticity and belonging or secure attachment. And so I think I felt the excitement that my authentic self was being
Mm.
witnessed in that moment. But then just as soon as it felt good, it was that immediate like, uh-oh.
Because
But
there wasn't a framework for it. There
yeah,
wasn't a place for it. So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, it just felt like, okay, the ways that you can be a leader are you can lead the children's ministry and you can lead a women's Bible study. And you can lead your children one day as a mother. Um, yeah. So there was a lot of things that felt problematic about what I learned about my design. So it's that idea again, it's like, how do how do I find belonging and be authentically myself? That would just felt like, I guess it just was a struggle. It was probably one of the biggest struggles I had for many years until our kids were in their teens. It was through a church group that was studying a Myers-Briggs based book that I started to be drawn into this idea of studying temperament, and that was just another layer deeper. We had, Emma and Bella were probably, yeah, I'm like 14 and 12. And so they were starting to really discover who they were uniquely. And it felt pretty big to get to have some more language around that.
Totally. Yeah, I think language for me has been huge in this process. But I want to go back to that quote
Yeah.
from Bramante. So, um, I've been studying him for a few years, and I think he's such a wonderful human being, and I like his material. When he talks about secure belonging and attachment versus authenticity, he's generally speaking about what happens from like the infant stage, right? Where the infant will oftentimes choose to deny themselves in order to stay connected. And so it's not a bad thing. It's just the nature of how it progresses over time for ourselves, where we will choose to stay connected versus expressing ourselves. Like, he uses the example of like parents who do sleep training, which I was one of those, and so the child eventually will just cry themselves to sleep.
Mhm.
But what I'm interested in though is like, okay, so the word authenticity.
Okay.
I want to hear like I feel like that word has a lot of definitions behind it, right? And so I'd be curious to like what how do you define authenticity? Like
Hmm.
when you think about showing up as like your authentic self, like what does that mean for you? Because I've had to ponder that question as well, and it changes.
I think there's different ways of showing up authentically. So it's like unscripted, showing up without a sense of self-consciousness or like without a sense of what do they need me to be? Maybe without scanning the room for how do I make sure I get approval for who I am. Boy, that's interesting to even just dig in. What does that mean to be authentic? It's like
Yeah.
probably I would say showing up in a public space the same way we would show up privately, the same way we would express in my journal and I guess it's not always appropriate to show up like so transparent wherever you in different settings. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Right? Yeah. What do you think, Andrea?
So for me, when we talk about oneness, our last podcast, it's all about love, and expanding love in your heart for others, nature, animals, life. But realizing that I have my own identity in this that I am a part of, is about truth. And so for me, it's just, and it's a journey. I can't tell you and truth is unfolding. It's not truth. Like I have found the truth and now I will not cross this line. It's like I understand my truth at this point to look like this. Oh, I had this experience of being on this podcast and freaking out. Now I know a bigger truth because I had to go and dig for it. And so it's this unfolding, but just living out your truth, really and understanding who you are and embracing who you are and what you bring to the table and what parts you play and how you fit with the people around you and with humanity as a whole and the special unique parts of you because of how everything's uniquely designed within you, helps you understand that truth and helps it grow so that you have to know it in order to walk in it and live in it,
Right.
and speak from it. So for me,
Yeah.
it's really about truth.
I would
And
say freedom. Oh, sorry. What were you going to say?
well, I was going to say, and it is an evolution. I mean,
Evolution. Totally.
as I've been reflecting on this idea of like, what does it mean to be authentic, right? And I think it's a very nuanced way of being. And so, where I am honing in on right now is like, how does my body feel? I mean, do I feel relaxed? Can I take a breath? Or do I feel constricted? Do I feel tight? Do
Yeah.
and so for me, that's something I'm going to practice more and just see like, all right, like, is that my authentic truth coming out in my behavior and the words I'm speaking?
That's such a
And yeah,
reminder.
it's really kind of got me thinking along those lines because even as I ponder the question, where have I traded, my authenticity to belong? I had a hard time answering that question for so many reasons, but one primarily is because when I was young and through most of my life, I learned to shut down my feelings because for me, safety and connection meant to be attuned to the other.
Mm. Yeah.
And so it wasn't necessarily I guess it was a trade-off. It just wasn't so obvious.
Mhm.
So that's really how I spent a majority of how I show up from the time I was little. And so that question gets me a little tripped up because, you know, for that reason.
Makes sense.
Um,
So I also just wanted to lay out a few hesitations before we start with the tools and the things that we want to share. I think it's really interesting and important to realize that even the things that we're sharing that have been useful to us are not obviously universally helpful for everyone. And I think it's really important to mention that. From my experience, having come from a place of being in a system where it seemed like, okay, women, everyone be like this. Men, this is your role. It seemed so broad and it seemed so like, you know, oh no, how do we fit into this, these boxes? Having all of this understanding of the distinctions and the nuances of individuality felt freeing, and it helped me give so much grace and freedom to people. So, but I recognize that not everybody will receive it that way.
yeah, you're right. And also, I think for me, I did the very thing that most people do when you get really excited when you learn something new about someone or yourself, but mostly my kid
Yeah.
and husband, I'm just like, did you know that the reason why this happens or the reason why that happens is because you are this?
Yeah.
It was such a turnoff because you're right. It just, for me, I realized it was my approach, thinking that I knew them. And if I put it back on me, that can be offensive, right? So it's like, how do you hold these really beautiful things that you learn about people in a way that doesn't come across as like, oh, I know you, or I
Yeah.
think I know why. For me, to like knowing these parts about myself that I've uncovered through the study it's not so I could be more self-focused. What I've noticed is it's actually helped me to be more available.
Yeah.
So, and that has been really huge for me. So it's just like instead of shutting down, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm shutting down. Now I can just be more available, more open to what is versus being afraid of it, I guess,
Yeah.
a better word. But yeah, you're right. Not everyone is receptive, and I think part of it is our approach.
Yeah, our approach, that is such a huge piece in how we relate to others when we're talking about understanding someone's difference, learning through a personality type test or something like that. Cindy and I definitely grew a lot as we learned about ourselves and our family members through the Myers-Briggs Personality Temperament. And you can go to 16personalities.com to dive into that. And I think it was maybe not as rich and deep, but it was the starting point, and we learned a lot in that beginning place.
Totally.
Um, Enneagram was the next deep dive. As I started to dive into the Enneagram, I was really drawn to Richard Rohr. I was reading him. He's a Franciscan priest, became a big teacher of the Enneagram. But Enneagram really introduced me to shadow work. Richard Rohr would talk a lot about embracing and integrating the shadow. So the Enneagram system has 9 different types and their numbers, and each one, once again, has a different strengths and weaknesses, you could say. So for me, I read about all the types. I took the test and I got a few different answers. Both of these things, these tools, the Myers-Briggs and Enneagram, rely on taking a test that you answer the questions and then it gives you a result. When I read about all the types, it was very clear to me. Richard Rohr said, you'll know which one is yours by the one that makes you feel the most like you want to hide. Like, no, I don't want that to be me. Ah. And so when I read the shadow qualities of the Enneagram 3, I was like, well, there it is. I don't want it's the thing you don't want anyone to know about you. That was how he described it. So the 3 is the performer. They're the one who, the achiever, the one who goes above and beyond, who loves to figure out how things could work the best. And the weakness, the weak side or the shadow side of that would be performing in a way that's not authentic, feeling this need for appreciative recognition. And reading that really set me into a bit of a crisis. I thought like, oh gosh, is that who I am? I don't want that to be who I am. How do I avoid it? And it really was the first time I ever looked at that concept of I do not know how. I don't know how to accept the shadow. I don't know what that means. How would I possibly want to accept and integrate these traits that feel so bad? I was afraid of those shadows and I didn't see how I could hold those, integrate them.
I remember when you were going through that, and it was hard. It was hard, and we spent some time on the phone just processing and talking through it. And as we go through the other structures that we've been practicing and learning about, I want you to share like where you are at now with that,
Yeah,
because it's been fun to watch it come around full circle. But yes, just to attest, I was there. It was hard.
it was big for me. It was an important piece. And I still think the Enneagram is beautiful and can bring so much insight. But moving on, I want to move on to the 3 tools that are probably the most relevant to me now. But did you have something to say before I move on from there?
I just was wondering if you've taken the test, Andrea. Have you taken the Enneagram test?
I did.
You did? Okay, so
Okay.
I
what
don't
was the
remember what
experience
I
like for
was.
you?
Oh,
Okay.
oh, darn.
Okay. So it played a part, but a small part. It was just
Yeah,
like,
and I think, I mean, you kind of nailed it when you said these are the ones you have to take the test. I don't do good with tests. I'm like panicked. I'm like, well, it's both. I don't know. It's
yeah,
both.
same.
And
Yeah.
so the next ones we're going to talk about have been my life-changing ones
Yeah.
because I didn't have to take a test to figure
And
it
that
out.
is so huge. I love that
Mhm.
about these. And I guess not everybody knows their exact birth time and all of that, which can be a piece that makes it tricky. But for the most part, in these, the tools of astrology, human design, and the gene keys, you just put in your birth information and then you look at your chart and you
Yep.
don't get to choose. You don't get to be like, I don't think I'm that. Am I that? Maybe I'm not that. You're just like,
Nope.
wow, what
You
is
are
this?
what it is. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Andrea, I feel like I've been rambling a lot. Tell me when did you first experience or go from, you were raised like I was. So how did you first encounter astrology and what was that like?
Um, I think just digging into it myself, looking at it. I never liked it when it was just the broad, every single Libra today is going to have this experience at work. I was like, oh, okay, we're all gonna do that, are we? So that just was a joke to me. But once I started looking deeper into it, and then human design popped up for me probably about 5 years ago, and that connected a lot. And then you're the one who brought the
Gene,
next one in.
Gene keys. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So, yeah, just kind of a long journey.
Yes. So we're going to be bringing our friend Jamie on the podcast next episode to talk more in depth about astrology. Um, Astrology is an incredible tool. It just wasn't where I started out on the journey. I actually had a friend introduce me to human design, which is a complex system. I'm going to do my best to explain it. But now I use all 3. I use astrology a ton, human design, and the gene keys. I find those 3 to be the most rich and the most in depth. But basically, what human design is it's a blend of astrology, the ancient I Ching, the chakra system, the Kabbalah, and quantum physics and genetics. So it's very integrated. It has so many things that it's integrating together, which I think is fascinating. But it is based on the time in the day where in the place where you were born, and it gives you what it would be called like a human design body graph. So it has a lot to do with the flow of energy from different parts of the body. And so in the human design chart, the main thing is that there's 5 energy types. And this is kind of the biggest piece, is knowing your energy type. Knowing your energy type is where you begin in the human design system. So there are 5 different types: generators, manifestors, manifesting generators, projectors, and reflectors. So I'm a generator type, which is the most common type in the human design system. And it's basically, you have a magnetic aura or a magnetic energy field where things are coming to you all the time. And then you have to, you don't have to, but you get to respond to what comes into your world, into your field. And if you respond to the things that light you up, to the things that feel like a yes to you genuinely in the body, again, this is very body based. For me as a generator, when I respond to the right thing, when I respond to things that are genuinely lighting me up, I have endless energy. That title, generator, it's like you have the Energizer Bunny. You can go and go and go and do things like crazy long amount of time. So as a generator type, though, you really have to pay attention to your own unique authority, is what it's called in the human design system. Every type has its own authority, which is distinct and which has to do with a certain part of your energetic body. So, and then there are the manifestor types. Manifestors, instead of having that magnetic aura, they have what's called a repelling aura, which doesn't mean that like nobody wants to be around them. It means they have sort of like, excuse me, pardon me energy. I have 2 manifestor children, and they're here to receive inspiration and then go and do a thing that they initiate on their own. So they have that kind of energy that's like, go out and make change and do things in the world energy. Then you have the projector energy.
Mind if I just interject
Yes,
there as
please,
well?
please do.
Because I too have a child that is typed as a manifester. And when I learned this about her, it helped me like understand how to communicate with her in a way that didn't create anger.
Mm,
And it completely changed the way her and I interact. Whereas prior to me having this knowledge, my way of seeing her was through my lens, right? But having this additional insight gave me the ability to pause and be like, okay, yeah, like she does not want to be told what to do.
yeah.
She just wants to be informed. That's a very big piece to this energy type, is just inform them. And that's also a great way for them to communicate with people in their life. So I just wanted to say, like, just this bit of information, as simple as it was very profound in keeping our relationship healthier
It's so
and
good.
keeping
Yeah.
the lines of communication open. And then also, it helped me to support her,
Yeah.
just to like get out of her way sometimes and trust that she has this ability within her to receive information and then create something. And then it's so fun to see her like in our family dynamic, because she's the only one of this type in our family, but she will literally activate our family into motion,
Ugh,
into action, just by her being herself. And
ugh.
I just sit on the sidelines and watch. It's so fun. But yeah, that was important
Yeah,
for
that's
me.
so good. I know it's so hard because I'm trying to think of how do I describe this without getting too lost in the details. I'm so glad you shared that story, because one of the main themes in human design is this idea of deconditioning. It's the reminder that we all get conditioned by our own life experiences, our culture, our family systems, our religious systems, whatever. We pick up this conditioning, meaning, oh, I guess I should do that. I should be that. I should act that way. And so we carry so much of that conditioning for so long that we don't even realize that it's not us. And so having a chart that you can look at that's like somehow this beautiful divine, you know, design that we were given the moment we were born, it gives you um, something to interact with and to look at and say, oh, what I thought all along was really just my conditioning. And usually when someone sees their chart and they start to look into it, it is so profound. It is that sense, like we've been talking about all along, of like, oh, I get to be this. I'm allowed to be this way. This is how I'm supposed to be. And the more you walk in your own distinct design that you were here to live out, the more joy you feel, but the more the world is brought to life. Like you were saying, when your daughter gets to be exactly who she is, and just like you said, not because she's trying, just because she is, just because she's being allowed to be her,
And I'm
it,
getting out of the way, you know?
yeah,
Exactly. Well, and then there's another piece to human design that was helpful for me that I think is worth mentioning. And that is like, so this whole process of deconditioning is also tailored with each type. There's what they call a not self theme. So for the manifester, when they are not operating in what's in alignment for them, a manifestation of that will be anger. So
yeah,
there's a way that you can tell if you're not really being true to your particular design. In this case, it's human design as a manifester. For me as a projector, one of the ways I can tell that I am operating more out of like my shoulds versus what's true for me in the moment is I'll get bitter. There's
yeah,
like this bitterness. It's just like, ugh, you know? And so for the generator, what
frustration. Yep.
frustration? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a very it's a simple way to just check in,
Wow. So
and see.
helpful.
So have you done the human design, Andrea?
Yes.
Do you remember
Yes.
which one you are?
I'm a man gen
Okay.
Yeah, so that's
manifest.
what did I mention? I mentioned generator and manifester. Then there's the manifesting generator, which Andrea is, which is like a blend of they have the generator sacral energy where they can go and go and go when they say yes to the right thing. And you're so lucky. I feel like, oh, I wish I was a man gen because and they can initiate action without waiting to respond to what comes to them. They can be like, you know what? I just got this idea. I'm gonna go do this thing. Um, so yeah, I feel like also I believe for generators and manifesting generators, the not self theme is frustration, where both if you're not doing, if you've said yes to the wrong thing, you're doing the shoulds, you'll feel that sense of like, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. And then for the projectors, I just to give an example so that I can summarize them for the
Yeah, totally.
projectors. So we have generator aura, which is like magnetized, things just come to you. Same with manifesting generators. Then we have the manifestors who they are going and doing their own unique thing. Then the projectors are here to see the other. They're here to, again, it's an outward energy, but it's very penetrating. They say that projectors have a penetrating aura, which wow. I mean, I know Andrea and I benefit so much from Cindy's projector ability. They can see things that others cannot see. They can see and reflect back so much about others because they're here to be the guides of the world. They're here to lead and guide and bring insight. And one piece about that, do you want to share about just the energy? Whereas for Andrea and I, if we say yes to the right thing, we're here to build. We're the builders of the world. We're here to make and create and do. So we have like endless energy if we're doing that thing that lights us up.
Mhm.
And if we do that, we bring that juicy, alive energy to everyone around us. It's not just for us, it's for the collective. Um, for the projector, you have a really unique relationship to energy. Do you want to, since you are one, do you want to describe it?
Yeah, so the big thing that you'll hear if you decide to go and like, what is this human design stuff, right? So for a projector, you will often hear this a projector is here to wait for an invitation, not necessarily like a verbal invitation, or is that what you were getting at, or
No,
are
that's
you
great.
like
Go down that road. I was just talking
penetrating
about, yeah,
aura?
like what that
Okay.
requires of you too.
Yeah. So, okay. So I'll finish this thought and then I'm going to go
Yeah.
back to something else. So, um, essentially for a projector to really be in their strengths and to really do what they're here to do, which is to offer insight and to guide, is like the people that they are with is extremely important, I've learned. So for me, being here with Andrea and Sarah, it works because they see me, they recognize me. And when I feel that energy, I can naturally just share
Mhm.
and it's received.
Mhm.
Now, I've been in situations where I wasn't in tune with that, and then I'll just say stuff, and it's happened with my family as well and my children. Um, they'll look at me like, what are you even talking about? Like they'll look at me with just confusion or like, did that really need to be said? And then I'm left feeling a little dumbfounded, like what just happened. So, but yeah, with that and the penetrating aura really is because when I am standing in front of you, I can, I can just like hone in on you,
Mhm.
not like in an invasive way, but in a way that feels just very caring. Like I genuinely want to know, like, what are you doing? Like, how are you really? Like, tell me more. And if I'm not invited, even energetically, that can feel invasive, right? So I have to just pay attention, like who I'm in front of, because sometimes I get a little excited and I'm just like, I just really want to like merge with that person, if you know
Yeah.
what I mean by that. So going back to our earlier conversation with me shutting down my ability to feel so I can be in connection with the people around me, especially as like a young child. Can you see how like naturally I am bent to be merging with people and to be focused on the other, right? Like it's more about being attuned to the other.
Yeah.
However, there is this beautiful balance now that I'm seeing in this space. Like, yes, I'm here to be a guide and to offer my insights when I'm recognized and I recognize myself. I realize that's also a big piece. Like if I don't recognize myself and what I can bring to the world and to my relationships, like I'm not going to be recognized. So I can be waiting around forever and it's not going to happen, right? So it starts with me.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's this beautiful balance. It's like, okay, I'm naturally here to be attuned to the other, but not at the expense of tuning into like how I'm feeling and
Yeah.
what's happening in my body, right? And so like that's been a big piece that I am learning. So instead of just discounting that whole part of my childhood, like why? Why did I have to be so shut down? Why was I so numb? Why was I so disconnected from myself and my body? Um, I realized like part of it was my design and I just didn't know. I didn't have a framework, like you said earlier, in which to work with that, but now I do. And
So,
so I can appreciate that about myself and also see how I can fine tune it so I don't abandon who I am as well, you know?
yeah, I mean, it's pretty powerful to see these unique aspects, and it's really beautiful to look at your whole family dynamic and see how all of it works together. So the last type that we didn't mention is the reflector. I only know one or two. It's very rare. Um, And part of the human design system, when you look at your body graph that you get, you'll see it's sort of like it's connected to the chakra system. So there's different centers in your body graph. So there's your crown center, your mind center, your throat, your heart, your sacral, your emotion, spleen. It sounds really strange if you're not familiar with it, but each one plays an interesting role in how you function, how you make decisions, how you interact with other people, how your energy flows. I mean, it's very fascinating. So a reflector type has a unique energy type in that they are very, what would you call, energetically open, where whoever they are with, they are mirroring back. That's why they're called the reflector. And so I can imagine that would be a very unique energy type to carry where you don't necessarily know like how you feel is 100% dependent upon who you're with because everyone that you're with you're mirroring back, and they say for reflectors, for making decisions, big decisions, that they should really wait a full moon cycle to make a big decision because of how much that energy changes for them. So again, very rare. But those are the five energy types within human design, and there's so much more about your centers are either open or they're defined. You have channels that move from one thing to another, and then a life theme, which do we want to touch on the life theme maybe a little bit before we move into the next one?
Yeah.
Like
Do
I
you
know
want?
we're running, we probably need to wrap this up here, but um the life theme is also connected to the gene keys, but uh once again, it's sort of a compilation of all the pieces in your chart. It takes into account where the sun was at in the sky the day you were born and how all these different pieces play together. So for me, my life theme is called the personal life theme of the unexpected. That was another fun thing to read about. Like, well, okay, that's pretty darn accurate to my experience. I have had many unexpected shifts throughout my life. It's not just a quick title, there's a whole readout that you can read about that. But has been very helpful for me as I go through different experiences in my life, especially to have friends in my life who also know my design and know my chart. Cindy's often reflecting back, remember, with your life theme of the unexpected, this is a part of your journey. How about, I don't know if you have any reflection, either of you, on your life theme. Do you know your life theme, Andrea? If not, I can look it up.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact title.
I'll pull it up. Well, I just think it's interesting to get the names. So, oh, hello, of course, the interpersonal life theme of healing.
Mm.
How could that slip my mind? Do you want to talk about anything in relation to what human
Um,
or any of those pieces?
yeah. So I mean, for me, by the time I got learned that about, my chart and my human design, it was just confirmation. But it was fun to get the confirmation and be like, oh, so all the things that have been in my heart to do and all the ways I respond to, life around me and what I want to give up my time and energy for is totally in the design of who I am. So it was cool to have that confirmation.
Andrea is very powerfully intuitive and has so many gifts that are so healing. And there's a lot that is continuing to, we're
Yeah.
benefiting from being in your life in that way in so many ways. And you married someone with the same life theme.
Yeah.
Oh, you
Okay.
did? He has the same life theme?
Yeah,
Yes.
we're gonna have fun together now that we don't have kids in our
Wow.
house anymore. We get to go do all this stuff in our
That's
life theme.
it's really,
Incredible.
yeah.
Okay, so just real quick, I'll talk about my life theme. So here's what I picked out. So mine is the life theme of communication.
Mhm.
And what I am getting from that was number one, it did validate an area of mine because I have so many different insights and thoughts and ideas that I want to get out with the person I'm in front of.
Yeah.
Um, and oftentimes it just gets lost in translation. And so my life theme is learning how to take all of this, the insights and things that I have, and then speak it in a way that's understood.
Oh, it's explanation, the life theme of
Yes.
explanation.
Okay, it says yes. So
Mhm.
thank you.
Mhm.
Um, and it's a challenge for me, but what I also appreciate is that it talks about ways that you can get trapped and like hung up on not being able to fulfill this part of you that really you're designed to be and do in the world.
Mhm.
And so, simple things like focus on your tone. Timing is really important. Pay attention to that.
Mhm.
Not everything needs to be said in the moment because you think it needs to be said, but what is the timing? And the simpler, the better for me. So, anyway, again, going back to even just sharing on this podcast and,
Mhm.
you know, re-listening to our conversations, it's just so much more clear to me too. It's like, oh yeah, there's still work to be done here with how do I speak in a way that I genuinely want to portray. So,
I've
yeah.
seen you grow in so many areas in that, and just the way that you have this intentionality about learning how to do that more clearly with your people. I mean, it's beautiful to watch that. It's so, I feel like, yes, it would be powerful enough if you were just learning about your little chart in your own little office in your house and discovering and studying, but there's something that is so much more powerful when you have a community and a group of people who all are doing this together to be able to share the things that you're learning. I mean, it's fun. It's just fun to get to see those gifts come alive with each other.
Well, one thing I like about this too is it's not like, oh, this is just who you are, stamp,
No.
because we gave you the titles of what we are, but it explains your journey in life. So it was fun because Cindy, wasn't that what you sent us last week? Was the pages of explanation of
Oh,
your
yeah.
and
Yes.
when I
Yeah,
read
I
it,
did.
so meeting you now, at a whole different stage in life than even when Sarah met you or, when you began your journey, I read it and I was like, oh, wow, she's come a long way. That's what I saw. I was like, oh, she's gone through so much of this already and is already walking this out. And this is the stuff I've seen in her down the journey, not like at the beginning. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, and that was super helpful just to get that feedback because I mean, I did say, I'm like, hey guys, I'm not looking for validation, but secretly I probably was. It just helped us to get that feedback because I was just like, I should not be sharing any of this stuff on the podcast.
Mm.
So, but also to go back to what you said, Andrea, like these systems don't define who we are. For me, like it's given me language in which to see these patterns that are already existing within me in
Yes.
you, that it's just, and it's helpful to have that language because then you can do something about it. You can communicate, you can,
Yes.
yeah. So,
Yeah. Well, and so the I'll move on quickly. We probably should wrap up here soon. I haven't even been paying attention to how long we've been on here, but I know that um, the gene keys is another system that is, I would say, it's sort of like a cousin or a sister system to human design because it came out of it. The gene keys is a little bit more of a contemplative approach to looking at your chart. So it's some say where human design might be more masculine or yang energy, gene keys is more feminine, more of the yin energy, where it's more slow and contemplative, and it's not meant to just be, grasped with even though human design is not just about the mind, it's really embodied. But gene keys incorporates this idea of there are 64 gates in the human design chart. Those come from the ancient Chinese I Ching. So this 64, there's 64 of them, and they're all arranged in different parts in your chart. If you were to look on your human design chart, and in your gene keys, it's called a hologenetic profile. And each one of those, what's different about it from human design is that each one has a shadow, a gift, and a siddhi, which is like a Sanskrit word for like the highest expression. So each part of who you are, which is mapped in a certain way in your life, always has this shadow expression and the gift expression or the highest expression. And the first time I heard someone really talking about gene keys, what kind of drew me in is I heard this woman explain. She said, I've been studying the gene keys for several years now, and what I love about it is that when I encounter a shadow in someone, let's say arrogance, I already know the gift that's underneath that shadow. I already know that there's a gift of leadership in there that is waiting to be born, and then the highest expression of that is humility. And so just hearing her talk about how that gave her a tool for compassion for others, it made me curious. And for me, um, again, so much depth. I guess I'm trying to summarize this in a way that's accessible. There's four main gene keys in your hologenetic profile, and that makes up what they call your genius. It's the thing that you're here to express with the world. So there's your life's work. It's sort of like a sphere at the top is your life's work. And then there's your evolution, which means what you're here to grow through and learn in this life. And then there's your radiance sphere, which is all about what gives you that radiance and that glow, and what keeps you healthy and happy. And then there's your purpose sphere, which is all about really what you're here to do. So it's like your life's work, your evolution, your radiance, and your purpose. Those four, if you were to start just at the beginning, are kind of the foundation of your gene keys profile. For me, I'll just quickly, I won't go through all of it, but my gift is anticipation. My life's work gift is anticipation. And that is to be dreaming up the possibilities of what could come in the future. The shadow of that is fantasy, which is where I can get stuck in just like talking about ideas and never actually doing them, or stuck in the fantasy of this dreaming of something totally unrealistic. I won't go through all the shadows, gift, and cities of each one of mine, but knowing that one main life's work of anticipation has been really rich. And there's a whole entire chapter in the Gene Keys book you can read about these different keys. And there's just a lot. There's audios you can listen to. So yeah, Cindy and Andrea, anything you want to dive into there with the Gene Keys?
Go for it, Cindy.
Well, there's just so what I'd like to ask you, Sarah, is I want to circle back to the shadows.
Okay.
So when you were having your moment with the Enneagram type 3 and just feeling like, oh, I'm not really happy about some of these qualities. I don't want to be that person.
Mhm.
And then I said, yep, I've seen you kind of come full circle. Would you say the gene keys and understanding how underneath each shadow there is a beautiful gift just waiting to be born? Would you say that that was really helpful for you to like start to accept and integrate your
Totally.
shadows
I mean,
more? Like,
totally.
where are you at with that now? I think.
Yeah, I think so one of the things, Richard Rudd is the founder of the Gene Keys, and one of the things he says in this book when he's talking about um, shadows is he says that shadows, in order to experience the gift, you have to allow that that shadow is truly there. You have to see it and decide like, okay, so for example, in this gift of anticipation, I have to allow, do I get stuck in fantasy? Yeah, I do. How is that manifested and what does that look like? And then the next step would be to, or it's accept, I think. So then it's an acceptance. Like, can I accept that aspect of me that I don't love to be there? And then embrace. So it's like moving through this process of, can I embrace the fact that if I didn't have this shadow of fantasy, I couldn't have the gift. I couldn't be that person who brings vision into the world, because I know that, yeah, I can get super depressed that like, I can be in my fantasy world and feel super disappointed at where my life is at when it's not meeting the place that I'm expecting or wanting. And that sucks. And that's a big part of me. However, I am a person who's meant to bring into form dreams that I have and actually make them happen. And I have done that many times in my life. I can look at my little urban farm. I didn't know what that was going to look like. That's a big part of this gift of anticipation, is not knowing, but feeling that something wants to be born and following that knowing, like, oh my gosh, I just love this food and I think more people would enjoy growing food, and I want to share this passion of understanding these homesteading skills. I want to do that. That led one step to another into something beautiful. But I also have to recognize now that no gift that anyone has is without the shadow. Everyone has gifts and shadows, and it's just like light and dark. You can't have one without the other. And that was not a framework that I grew up with. I grew up with, again, this idea that we need our sin needs to be changed. And I can see how even within the Christian framework you can look at this in a similar way. It's like but really, from my perspective as a young person, I was so afraid of my sin nature, and I was trying um to get rid of it, get away from it, just only look at the light and focus on Jesus and ask him to change these parts of me. And it was much more of a trying to, yeah, put it away, get rid of it, be separate from my quote unquote my sin. Now I see these shadows as this necessary part of being human, that everything has shadow. And it doesn't mean that I want to stay stuck in fantasy, because that's harmful, and it's just recognizing when I do, to have that compassionate perspective of looking at it and going, oh yeah, there it is. There's the shadow of fantasy again. There's my disappointment because it's not looking like I want it to be. How can I lean into that with compassion instead of um, shame or frustration?
Totally.
Or
Thank you.
rejection of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. And to know that it's not all, it's we're always going to ebb and flow
Mhm.
through that, where we're sometimes we're living out in our shadow and sometimes we're expressing the gift.
Yeah.
But hopefully, just like in Christianity, we were taught, it's like through time, there's this spiritual growth that you start to see change in your life. And that's the way as well, when you're looking at it through the lens of the gene keys, it's like you can what all you need is the awareness. All you need is to be able to see, oh yeah. And the desire to have that compassion for that part of you. I feel like that to me is all that's necessary is just recognizing, seeing those aspects of ourself that that we don't love, but giving love there anyway.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, for me, I would say out of all the modalities that you've mentioned, and I know that there's astrology still left to be talked about, and you did a whole podcast with Jamie, which you'll air after this, right?
Mhm.
Um, this particular one has been the most one that's been impactful for me, and also the one I find myself just honing in on. Because it takes some digging, it takes some curiosity, it takes time, and that works for me. It feels like I can trust it more because it's requiring like my own intuition and my own insight instead of just taking a piece of knowledge and applying it and like, okay, and seeing if it fits, which a lot of it has fit.
Mhm.
I get to play with, I get to play with it, and I did have some questions about my birth time and my birthplace and that brought in a little bit of just like some doubt, like is this really accurate? So I played around with some different times, which you can easily do. I mean, if you decide to try this on, you can see how much of your chart does change if you put in different times. I did that and I still saw pretty cohesive, coherent chart. And
Yeah.
so I've landed in a place where I feel pretty confident about what I'm reading and looking at.
Yeah.
But it's been 5 years, I think, since I've been studying the gene keys, and it still feels so new to me in a lot of ways. There is another section that Sarah was probably going to get to, but once you do the four main spheres, your activation sequence, there's another component where it's called the Venus sequence, which is all about like your emotional life, childhood, and how you were conditioned and the way that you respond to emotional hurts and how you responded intellectually. And then there's this whole other part too that talks about your prosperity, how you're here to be in the world to like bring abundance into your life, not necessarily financial prosperity, but just that feeling of like, wow, I'm doing what I'm here to do and it feels really prosperous and abundant. And then you can share that with the world too.
Yeah,
So
it's
there's
powerful.
there's a
Really
lot
deep
there.
dive into relationships. That Venus sequence is so powerful. And you can sign up online and do like coursework with others and group work, or you can buy the book and just do some of it yourself. I think it's always encouraged to join because then you get videos to kind of follow along if you do it with others. But yeah, the depth that is there, I mean, to me it's so fascinating. And as I've gone through my chart, and I go back to the Venus sequence with myself and my husband, since it's so focused on relationships all the time. And it is so powerful that there's this map. It's like we have this map, just like this genetic map within us that have these really specific codes that help us understand our relationships. I mean, understand how we can step more fully into our expression in the world. That's called the Pearl sequence, the one that Cindy was talking about. So it's quite fascinating. It really makes me even more in awe of this sacred universe that we're in, which feels like has so much order, so much beauty. And really, all of these different modalities are just pieces of tools that can be used to help us along our path of knowing what we're here, who we're here to be, what we're here to do. And I think so many people have that question, like, there's got to be more, there's got to be some purpose, and recognizing that there's a tool here, there's a map to explore. Really, to me, where I have landed after studying all these different things, first of all, I'll say all of them from start to finish, from the little animal, descriptions all the way to the depth of gene keys, none of them contradict each other at all. They just add this nuance to nuance to nuance. It's like I can see my human design type in my Myers-Briggs profile. I can see my astrology, sun, moon, and rising in the Enneagram. I mean, you can find the way that they layer. It's sort of like peeling back another layer of the onion of who you are. But really, what I feel it's taught me most deeply is that we all are here. What I believe is that we're all here to show up as completely more and more fully as we are, exactly how we've been designed. And the more we can learn to love and accept those parts of us, the shadow parts, the gift parts, the struggle that we're here to wrestle with. Each one of us has a different thing. In astrology, there's something called our Chiron placement. In the gene keys, there's a key that's specific to our core wound, is what it's called. So there's just all of this depth to understand more about how we can fully express this beautiful divine life that we're here to live. And to me, that feels so empowering and so beautiful to recognize that everyone else is on a journey just like we are, only it's distinct and unique to them.
Yeah, well said. I wrote something down that I feel like I wanted to share at the end of this conversation, and going back to the other, the one and other, right? Like, I agree. All these modalities, there's no I haven't found a lot of contradictions. It's been very coherent, and there's so much synergy, where it's just helped me make so many more connections about why I am the way I am, why I've shown up the way I've shown up. I can show up now better as a partner, as a friend, how I listen, how I see the other. But what I wrote down for me, I said, knowing myself became the bridge between connection and individuality, between me and my kids, me and my partner, and me and the parts of myself that I had locked away.
Mm.
And and again, that just makes me more available because I'm being honest, and I didn't take every bit of information as truth, but I sat with it, and I studied my life, and I studied my patterns, and I took what was true, what felt true for me, and I worked with that. And then the pieces that I didn't feel like were resonant, that was okay. I didn't really, interpret those for my life, but I will say that my relationships are deeper and better. Um, the relationship to myself feels so much more enriching. There's a lot less shame that I hold, and I have more of a clear path in which to like focus my energies, and the people I'm going to surround myself with. So, yeah, so it totally matters. The individual, the other, and the one, like they are connected.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So true. I feel just excited to invite people to look into these different tools. And like I said, I'll put links down at the bottom. Is there anything else, Andrea, that you wanted to share as we kind of wrap up? I know this is a longer one, but there's so much to talk about.
I know, and this really does connect back to the one, like Cindy said, because the more you are exploring your individuality and who you are and understanding you as an other, the more you understand other people are different, and we all are very unique. And as we all choose to become the best versions of ourselves, however that looks for you, we show up for each other, and then we have a better world. So this whole one and other is such an amazing concept that really is a huge answer to life on Earth right now.
Yeah, there's so much going on that I feel like if we could all see our own unique gift, if we could be in community with people that could see us and we could recognize them, it would change so much of what's going on in the world. And so, yeah, one step at a time, one person at a time. There's lots of amazing people out there that give readings that will help you walk through your chart. And yeah, we'll put some of that information in the show notes, including our friend Jamie, who reads the astrology chart for people. Next episode, you'll get to hear directly from her about how astrology has been a tool for growth and self-knowledge. So anyway, I feel jazzed about it. I'm so grateful we had this conversation, and I'm looking forward to sharing this and hearing feedback from if other people have explored this. Any thoughts and anything you want to share with us. Please, if you are new to this, which most of you are since we're brand new here, please tell friends if you feel like this was useful and share it so that we can grow the audience and be able to get more guests on the show. That's really a goal, is to continue to share the conversation. But from this, I can just feel so many other conversations coming. We want to talk about shadow work. We want to talk about embodiment. We want to talk about so much that touches some of these things we've been speaking about today. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Cindy.
It was fun.
It was a good one. We'll talk again soon.
Okay, bye.